we go. Okay, welcome to the ProServeIT Academy. We'll get started now. This is our first cybersecurity class. With so many security products out there, where do you start? We'll help you with that challenge. Our topic today is simplifying your security journey. My name is Betty Kwan, and I'm on the marketing team at ProServeIT. Presenting today will be George Abu-Samra, Principal Consultant and Security Practice Lead at ProServeIT. It's our pleasure to host you today. Before we launch into the class, I'd just like to mention a few housekeeping items. I would ask you to please keep yourself on mute during the presentation portion, unless you have a question to ask. This will minimize any background noise. You can also enter any questions in the chat, and we'll answer your question during a pause or during the Q&A time. We will be recording the presentation, and you will receive a copy along with the presentation deck for your reference. Just look out for an email within a couple of days. If you experience any audio or visual issues, we suggest you drop from the session and join again. And with that, I will turn it over to George.
Thank you so much, Betty. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first course for the ProServeIT Cybersecurity Academy. My name is George Abu-Samra. I will be your instructor today. I'm a Principal Consultant and Security Practice Lead here at ProServeIT. So in today's class, we'll be talking about simplifying your security journey. Now, delivering security that is effective and simple is not an easy feat. There are a lot of things to think about, from getting buy-in and support from upper management, to finding credible and experienced resources, to managing the security elements within your environment. What I plan on getting out of today's session is to help everyone understand certain steps to take to simplify your security journey. So as for the agenda today, first, I'll explain some of the challenges organizations face today with security. Then we'll talk about ProServeIT's cybersecurity house model to better understand security using a house as an analogy. We'll then explain our three-step approach to simplifying security. Then I'll walk you through the various Microsoft security workshops that are available, and you can probably take advantage of those free workshops if you qualify for them. And last but not least, we'll go through a Q&A section to answer any questions that you might have. All right, so today, organizations face an incredibly difficult task of trying to protect their expanding digital estate from increasing cyber threats. The move to the cloud and a more mobile workforce, especially during COVID times, has pushed the border of your state beyond the boundary of your physical network. Your data, your users, and systems are everywhere today. So some of you might be in a hybrid scenario where your servers are on premises still, and other services are in the cloud. You know, whether that be the Azure cloud, the Google cloud, Amazon Web Services, or any other cloud out there. Others might have people working remotely, accessing data on your servers, or stored in a cloud repository somewhere. Some might be using their own personal devices to access corporate resources, and you're unsure how secure those personal devices are. Now, you want to make sure you've covered all your bases and thought about what risks you're opening up to your organization with each decision made. So the security operations purpose of protecting an organization's information and assets is becoming increasingly difficult. Now, you can see some of those reasons listed here on the screen. One of which is that attack techniques, frequency, and complexity are evolving extremely fast. A typical attack can span different parts and cross various resource types. It might start from an email address, proceed to your endpoint, spread to a cloud service, or to a database. It could involve multiple user accounts, and so on. Another challenge worth noting is that security teams are under strain from the expanding range of defensive technologies and not knowing what security tools they need, and as hybrid cloud adoption increases. Now, this can cause alert fatigue, where we see too many alerts from disconnected products. You need a way to reduce all that noise. You have to prioritize all your alerts and enable investigation and hunting across your entire data set. Breach investigations are complex and time-consuming as well. You know, every second counts when security personnel are handling a threat that might jeopardize their organization. The clock's ticking fast, but investigation requires highly skilled security analysts and can often take days or weeks. To add to that, the shortage of security talent makes this problem even worse. So the need for skilled security professionals has greatly increased, and supply cannot meet current or future demand. Now, these are just some of the challenges that organizations face today when dealing with security. So we're going to talk about ProServeIT's security house model. Now, you can think of this as a real house. You can have the foundation, you have some pillars to support it, you have a ceiling and a roof. So let's start off with the foundation. Every house needs a solid foundation to build on. Otherwise, obviously, it would fall. It would eventually be worthless. In our cybersecurity house model, the foundation is the security assessments with an outcome being a roadmap. Now, everybody knows security isn't a one and done deal, it's a journey. And you can never say I'm 100% protected. But what you can say is I've minimized the risk as much as possible to a state that I'm willing to accept. Now, in real life, temperature changes, soil issues, water leaks are all examples that can cause house foundational problems. And all that happens with time. Similarly, in cybersecurity, as threats become more sophisticated, as attack techniques become more frequent, and as you introduce new services, you're going to have to solidify that foundation with a security assessment to understand the risks and attack vectors involved in protecting your organization. The outcome of the security assessments should be actionable items categorized by the severity of the risk detected that your organization can look forward to mitigate. Now, the foundation includes the vision or an ideal picture of a future state where you'd like to be, your desired state. It can also include the mission, the purpose or aim of such an assessment or such protecting your environment, the values, intrinsically important priorities, so prioritizing them from low risk, medium risk, high risk, critical, management theory, how the senior leadership thinks about the risks that are present within your organization, and finally, strategy, which is the long-term plan of your action and priorities. Now, if each of these are clear and communicated to all stakeholders, it helps everyone to make decisions quickly and eventually implement the following pillars. Now, the next component of the house would be these pillars, which go above the foundation. Now, these pillars support the ceiling and the roof of the house. Without these supporting pillars, the ceiling and roof would fall. In our cybersecurity house model, these pillars are the protection mechanisms that we put in place. It's the various security components that organizations have to look into to ensure that they are secure enough. Each one of those pillars represent what our organizations should look or should have in order to be more secure and have somewhat of a secure baseline. Here at ProServeIT, we have 4 different levels of security maturity. The higher the level, the more secure you are. And we have defined level 2 to be that baseline that every organization should meet to be secure enough in today's world. The more you level up to level 3 or level 4, the less your risks become, and in turn, a more secure environment. So the pillars in this case are your identity and access management, your email security, your data security, endpoints, all the way to end user training. Now, once the assessment is complete, each pillar will be categorized by a level based on what the organization has. The roadmap will be associated with the organization's desired state of how secure they want to be. Now, all that depends on, how much they want to invest, their resources, their upper management support and buy-in, and other factors as well. The next component is the ceiling. The ceiling is what holds all the pillars together. And in return, the pillars support the ceiling as well. So you've implemented the tech, you've got the resources, the documentation, the processes, whatever needs to be done to your organization to be put in a secure state. Now you need to be able to monitor your identities, your emails, your data, your endpoints, so on and so forth for any security risks. There's always going to be attacks against your organization, whether you like it or not. It's not a matter of if they get in, it's a matter of when they get in. So in order to do so, you need an active monitoring solution or a security operations center that can continuously monitor your environment for threats. This is where security information and event management, or SIM for short, and security operations, automation, and response, or SOAR for short, come into play. One that I'd like to talk about is Microsoft Sentinel. So we'll get into that a little later in the course today. And finally, you need a roof on a house. The roof shields the house from things that can hurt it. In our cybersecurity house model, this is where our information security policies come into play that govern all the policies and procedures we have put in place within our house model. It governs the protection of information, which is one of the many assets a corporation needs to protect. How rules and procedures for all individuals accessing and using an organization's IT and assets and resources. The roof is also to ensure security governance for overseeing the cybersecurity teams who are responsible for mitigating business risks. All of these rooms or elements of a house can help us understand security a little more and the importance of every room in a house placed to help support the organization's security requirements. So let's talk about simplifying security using our three-step approach. Phase number one would be the assess phase. It's the foundation of the house. The first thing you have to do is identify what needs to be assessed. You don't know what you don't know. So you have to assess your environment for any security gaps or risks and document them. This can help put things into perspective and give you a goal to look forward to. This is where the security roadmap comes into play. Then phase number two would be the protect phase. After you've identified what security gaps you have to figure out how to mitigate those risks. Put the proper protection in place to reduce those risks as much as possible to a level the organization is willing to accept. Now, I stated earlier, those could be a specific technology, a process, documentation, resources, so on and so forth, to help mitigate these risks. And part of the assessment could be a governing body that requires you to protect your environment in a certain manner to meet the requirements. It could be, requirements from cyber insurance companies, for example, or requirements to meet PCI DSS for payments. Each one of those governing bodies would have their own requirements that you'd have to meet, and all that will be determined as part of the assess phase. And it's up to you to protect your environment against those risks in phase number two, which is the protect phase. Phase number three would be the monitor and improve phase. So after you've protected your environment, you want to monitor the service to ensure compliance and be alerted on malicious activities happening. You want to continuously improve as threats increase in frequency and sophistication, or even if you've just added a new service to your organization. You want to go back, this will be a loop, go back to phase number one, perform a new assessment against the new service that you're adding, and figure out a way to protect it and eventually monitor it. So it is a three-step approach, but this three-step approach is going to be looped. Now, it should not be looked into a linear manner. It just keeps going over and over again until your organization is in a secure state. Step number one would be the assess, as we had just talked about. Now, depending on your organization, where your assets live, what you have and don't have, there could be various types of assessments that can be completed. For example, we can complete a Microsoft Office 365 security assessment that can identify gaps in your Office 365 environment related to identity, email with Exchange, data within SharePoint, OneDrive, your devices and endpoints, whether it's your laptop, your workstations, your servers, your mobile phones, so on and so forth. Maybe another assessment against your Azure environment where you're hosting your servers as well. Or if you still have servers on, on a domain on premises, another assessment for those can be completed as well. Penetration tests, vulnerability assessments, phishing campaigns, all these are types of assessments that can help identify gaps within an organization and something for an organization to look forward to mitigate the risks present. So the more information you have about the risks present to your organization, the better you can put an implementation plan to mitigate those risks. That's the main reason for performing these types of assessments. We like to perform our assessments in a three-phased approach. Number one would be a holistic questionnaire from, to understand your desired state from a security perspective, where you'd like to be down the line. Now, this helps us understand how a company approaches security topics in the organization. Number two would be a security maturity exercise to help us understand the company's current maturity state. And we'll be talking about that in the next slide. And finally, an audit of the environment. If it's Office 365, for example, an audit of the security measures put in place. Are they fully utilizing their licenses to the best of their abilities? Has everything been implemented already as per best practices? Or do they need any additional licenses to meet their desired state? These are some of the things that we do to ensure that the assessment provides the company with the best results and recommendations to make an informed decision on what needs to be done next. So this is the cybersecurity maturity assessment model. As you can see here, it's in 4 stages from unprepared, reactive, proactive, and optimized. Once we go through the cybersecurity maturity assessment together, we'll be able to understand where your organization fits between level 0 to level 3 and rate each level of security or each component within the security model on whether you're going to be reactive,
George,
proactive,
sorry to
or optimized.
interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any sound. Is anyone else getting the sound from George?
Yeah, looks good to me.
Good to me too.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Oh, okay. Other people are.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Betty?
Sorry about that. I think it was my mic.
All right. Thank you. All right. So as I was stating, depending on where you end up on this maturity label or maturity assessment, we can put your identity, for example, as a level 1, as a reactive state. Maybe you've invested quite heavily in securing your endpoint in your devices, and you could be either in a proactive state or in the optimized state. So we'll have to go through these exercises. Like I said, from a questionnaires perspective, from the security maturity exercise perspective, as well as the actual audit, getting hands-on onto the environment, taking a look around, seeing if everything's deployed correctly, the licenses that you're already invested in and paying for, are you fully utilizing those from a security perspective, or could there be, a couple of check boxes here and there that can kind of improve your security posture? All that will help us determine your current maturity state and eventually come up with something that looks like this. So for example, from an identity and access management perspective, you could be a level 1, but your desired state would be to a level 3. So this is just a sample of what the levels could look like based on that assessment. Obviously, there'll be more detail to it and recommendations for the gaps and risks that were discovered, but just to show you an overall picture of what an organization's maturity state could look like. Step number 2 would be to protect. Now, when we get to level 2, the protect phase, we want to look at what we can do to help mitigate the risks present. All the risks that we're able to uncover and document, we would have to tag them with a corresponding solution or process that can mitigate the risk to a level the organization is comfortable with. For example, to protect our identities, we definitely need to implement multi-factor authentication. This is usually the number 1 recommendation on all my reports if an organization doesn't have it already. It protects 99.9% of attacks against your identities, and it's a no-brainer to have. It's also part of every single license within Office 365, so there's not really an investment that really needs to be made. You just have to configure it, end user communication, training, and then finally enable it. To protect our emails, for example, we need some sort of advanced email filtering solution like Defender for Office 365 that can help protect users from accidentally clicking on phishing links or from receiving malicious attachments. Now, by default, just if you're in Office 365, the default settings are not adequate enough for today's cybercrime world. They might have been, adequate but 3 or 4 years ago, but in today's world where cybercrime is on the rise, attacks are more sophisticated than they were before, we have to enhance those settings. So just by having the built-in settings that come with a tenant by default are not enough in today's world. So we need to invest in an advanced email filtering solution like Defender for Office 365. And we definitely need to harden the existing settings that exist. We also want to implement some sort of spoof protection mechanisms that can help block bad actors from sending emails on our behalf and impersonating us. And those relate to SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, if you've heard of them. Pretty much, if an attacker or a bad actor is trying to send emails pretending or impersonating your domain, there are ways for us to block those impersonation attacks from being received by the recipient. Another example is if we want to protect our data, we can apply some sort of data loss prevention policies to block whether it's malicious, intentional, or unintentional leakage of sensitive information. Or you can even take that as a step further and start classifying and labeling your documents and encrypting them based on the content and sensitivity. So for example, if you're working on a top secret project within your organization, if you are, let's just say a bakery, for example, and you have a top secret recipe that no one's supposed to know about, you definitely don't want that recipe leaked. So you want to take that extra measure to label and encrypt that document so the encryption travels with the document itself, regardless of how it was sent or shared or stolen or hacked. You know for a fact that nobody's going to be able to open up that document except authorized personnel. For endpoints, we no longer want to see any traditional antivirus solutions on there. Antivirus solutions rely on definition updates from the vendor. So as you're aware, every virus has its own signature, its own pattern, and that's how AV solutions works. That's how traditional AV solutions work. You have to wait for that, for the vendor to release those patterns, to release that signature, and you download it on your machine so that your machine can start detecting that type of virus. What we want to see is endpoint detection and response solutions, or EDR solutions, that are AI driven and can understand the attack chain and stop it in its tracks before damage is done. This is where Defender for Endpoint comes into play. So if Defender for Endpoint realizes that this file is not supposed to be modified within your system settings, or your files are starting to change or manipulate the data that's within them, that is malicious behavior. A traditional antivirus solution will not be able to detect that, but an endpoint detection and response solution like Defender for Endpoint would realize the behaviors are not common and stop the attack before any damage is done. So the point being, if we have a gap somewhere, we have to follow the recommended plan and act on it, depending on the risks involved and how much risk the organization is willing to tolerate. And depending where you fall on the maturity matrix, the maturity state within your environment, there could be one solution or another that can fit your needs to ensure you reduce your risk as much as possible. Now we can even tag certain technologies with the 5 NIST functions. Now, for those of you that don't know, NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's a regulatory body that offers guidelines to other organizations on security or just technology-related matters. There's never a one-size-fits-all in security, but there's always a baseline that a company can follow to ensure that they have the minimum protection in place in today's world of cybercrime. The 5 NIST functions are identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover. And each one of those functions is mapped with a specific Microsoft technology that can help with the overall picture on how to protect your environment from bad actors. So for example, if you're looking to protect, they're all color coded here. So if you're looking to protect your identity, for example, you can take a look at the teal color under the protect function or under the protect pillar in this case. If you want to be able to recover, which is the last function of the NIST functions, you have your Azure backups or your site recovery. So it really depends on what we're trying to do. We can also map it against NIST functions to help us understand where our gaps are. Now, step 3 would be to monitor and improve. And the main way we want to monitor would be using a SIM solution. So how can you monitor and improve as a final step within our simplifying security conversation? Like I stated, it's through a SIM solution like Microsoft Sentinel. Now, what is Microsoft Sentinel? Microsoft Sentinel is a scalable, cloud-native SIM and SOAR solution. So the SIM component allows us to analyze event data in real time. We want to be able to detect very early these targeted attacks and data breaches. And it also allows us to collect, store, and investigate on log data for incident response, forensics, and regulatory compliance. The SOAR component helps security teams make the jump from just simply collecting the data to streamlining security operations by using something that we call playbooks. Now, playbooks help us automate many of the tasks required to respond to security events today. I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's just say somebody has been signing in from within Canada or the States, and then 15 minutes later, we see a sign-in activity happening within from China or Russia, and then we see more malicious activities happening there. That's an immediate red flag, and we want to be able to automate some sort of response that can mitigate the risk in a short period of time. So we can run a playbook that can block the account, revoke access, reset the password, and kick the bad actors out of that account. So that way you can, slowly investigate, do what needs to be done in order to understand what had happened, how did this bad actor come into play. But rest assured, you know that the risk has been mitigated just by kicking the bad actors out. You've reset the password, you've blocked the account, and now you can start your forensics. You can start your incident response process. Now, the way Microsoft Sentinel works is by correlating the security logs and signals from all sources, whether it's through your applications, your infrastructure, your network, your users, whether they reside on premises, in Azure, or any other cloud platform. And it alerts us whenever these anomalies in the events are detected. Now, this end-to-end solution for security operations can be broken down into 4 main phases. Phase number 1 would be the collect phase. You want to be able to collect logs and data from various sources. Office 365 could be a source, Azure servers, just Azure in general, Azure Activity, workstations, firewalls. It could be your Google Cloud. It could be your Amazon Web Services. It doesn't really matter what the data source is. If it contains logs, there are ways for us to ingest those logs into Sentinel. So it can either be a very simple ingestion process through something that we call data connectors. Sometimes it's just a couple of checkboxes, clicking apply. Suddenly we're starting to ingest logs from that service. Others from third-party connectors, for example, whether it's built in or not, there might be extra steps that need to happen, whether it's creating API calls to ingest those logs, whether it's using logic apps, custom logs that are saved on a server somewhere. There can be many ways for us to ingest those logs into the product. As of today, there are 123 different connectors, and it's continuously growing. And by connectors, we mean, it could be a Cisco firewall, it could be your Palo Alto firewalls, it could be your servers, it could be syslog activity, your network logs, VMware. There's a lot of connectors available today, just out of the box. And if a connector does not exist, like I said, there's probably some custom solution that we can develop to integrate those logs with Microsoft Sentinel. So once we have all those logs, you want to be able to detect security incidents with analytic rules that we create. For example, I want to generate an alert when somebody successfully signs into my account from any country outside of Canada. So I'll just create that query, whenever there's sign-in activity happening from my account and it's a successful one, because I bet you if I log into every single one of your tenants, you're going to see a lot of failed attempts from all over the world, just people trying to break into your accounts, all automated. So I want to make sure that if it was successful, I want to be alerted by it on the spot and possibly even attach some sort of playbook to it to automatically mitigate the risk for me to start my investigation right after. Now, there's different types of analytic rules that can be created. Some are guided by AI, some are scheduled queries that run every 5 minutes or so. But at the end of the day, we want to be alerted anytime some sort of malicious activities are happening. So once we're able to detect an alert pops up, we want to go into phase 3, which is the investigation phase. We want to be able to investigate the alert and find the root cause in a short period of time. That helps us understand the scope of the incident. Who was affected? Was it one user? Was it multiple users? Did somebody just click on a link? Did it download something to their endpoint? So Sentinel helps us throughout that investigation process. It draws us the bigger picture to help us find the root cause of a potential security threat. Now, once we find what that security threat is, we want to be able to respond as quickly as possible to eliminate the threat, using automation when possible. So even if we don't have these playbooks, we've completed our investigation. At least now we know what the root cause is, what had happened based on the logs that we're seeing. Let's go in and start mitigating these risks. And if we see a pattern with, a lot of suspicious activity happenings in a certain area, we can then create those automation response, those playbooks, and helps us mitigate those risks in a timely fashion. So that's the monitoring side of things. Now, how can we improve? Just based on the alerts that we're seeing, we can continuously improve your security posture by mitigating these risks that we're able to capture with Microsoft Sentinel. So if we're seeing a repetitive, alerts pop up, if we're seeing, let's just say, anonymous activity happening within SharePoint, people are sharing links from SharePoint using an anonymous link, meaning you don't need any authentication processes to sign in and take a look at that document or whatever people are sharing. If we see those alerts or we see those, incidents pop up within the Sentinel platform, we know that people are sharing sensitive information, possibly using anonymous links. And if anybody gains access to those anonymous links, then they'll be able to access that document and open it up without authentication, without having to type in a username and password. All they need is a link. So that helps us improve and figure out, all right, we have a gap here. Let's see how we can close that gap. Let's disable anonymous link usage and always allow authenticated access, and possibly even take it a step further, allow guests access only when they MFA themselves. So if that organization, even if they don't want to apply MFA within their own organization, but if you want to access our resources, we need you to be MFA enabled or multi-factor authentication enabled, because we don't know who you are. If your account has been compromised and hackers have taken over your account, at least they still need your mobile phone or a third-party device to access the document that we had shared with you. All right, moving over to our last stage of this webinar. First things first, I just want to give you a quick overview of Alarm Guardian. Alarm Guardian is our security operations center. It's our 24/7 monitoring solution. We enroll your environment, we monitor your environment, the data sources that you have, your Exchange Online activity, your SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, firewalls, servers, network activity, whatever you want us to monitor, we can include that as part of the service. We have different tiers. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but it's pretty much a 24/7 monitoring solution and alerting solution as an extension to your IT team. So we help your IT team detect malicious activities happening within your environment and alert you whenever we see some sort of anomaly. Now you can also take advantage of our threat intelligence network. We've signed up for multiple different threat intelligence platforms that feed us information on what IP addresses are malicious, what host names, what URLs, you know, all those nice things. What are they? Which ones are malicious? And if any of those are detected in your environment, whether it was received in an email, somebody signing into your environment from those IPs, we're automatically going to be alerted by it so that we can start the investigation process and see whether it is malicious or not. And by signing up for that, any type of malicious activity that we see as well, we're building our own threat intelligence platform, our own threat intelligence network. If one of our customers, we see some sort of malicious activity happening from this public IP address, we'll automatically add that to our threat intelligence platform so that if our other customers are also being attacked or some sort of malicious activity is happening from that IP address, we will be notified as well. So these are the 3 different tiers that we have currently for Alarm Guardian. Now, depending on the size of your organization, if you're below 100 users, you can make use of the Defend tier, which helps us monitor your Office 365 environment. But if you want us to monitor anything more than Office 365, it could be your Azure AD identities, it could be your firewalls, it could be your network, your servers, some third-party application that is a bit business critical for you, your backups, your SQL servers, regardless of what it is, you'd have to move up to either the Protect or the Assure tier. And we'll gladly, set up meetings with you to help you understand our packages even more and find which package suits your needs. Now for the Microsoft security workshops, there are, I believe, about 6 different workshops that are available to you today. And all these are complementary to organizations purely paid by Microsoft. You just have to qualify for the different types of security workshops. I'll just give you a quick example. One of these workshops, it used to be called Threat Check. I believe now it's called Protecting Governed Sensitive Data. So what we can do within these workshops is pretty much understand your threat landscape. So we can talk about, the threats that are present within your identity structure, within your data, within your emails, monitor that environment for a couple of weeks, understand who's being attacked, from where are they being attacked, were there any successful attacks, have you been breached or compromised, how long have they been in your environment if you were compromised. And obviously it comes with a report at the end, but we won't wait to the report if we see anything very critical that we have to report to you. But pretty much at the end of that, we'll go through workshop exercises, some PowerPoint slides to help the organization understand the Microsoft solutions that can help protect you against these types of attacks, and eventually a customized report for your organization just based on what we were able to witness within the period that we are monitoring your environment for. So if we see some sort of a user that's constantly under attack by a specific protocol, let's just say it's the IMAP protocol, a legacy protocol, we can put our recommendations in place and say we have to disable all legacy protocols because they are an attack vector. They bypass MFA. If somebody has your credentials and you don't have MFA enabled, they can easily log into your account using IMAP and download your entire mailbox for offline viewing. So that could be one of the recommendations that pops up. Maybe somebody's trying to attack your identities from all over the world. One of those recommendations would possibly be geofencing. So putting some sort of policies in place that allow users to only access your environment from specific countries that you operate from. And if somebody is traveling, for example, they could be included in an exclusion group to travel. And then once they're back into the country, they can be removed from that exclusion group. That process can either be manual or automated, just depending on the appetite of the organization, how much overhead you want. Another one could be around Microsoft Sentinel. So Microsoft Sentinel, like we stated, is the SIEM and SOAR solution. It monitors your environment and acts upon it. This workshop helps the organization understand how they can implement Sentinel, and we will implement it for you on Microsoft's behalf, and eventually monitor the solution on your behalf as well if it's part of the agreement. So we'll be able to identify a lot of the threats that pop up throughout the process of the workshop. We'll explain Sentinel to you throughout the PowerPoint decks and the workshop activities that we go through. We'll connect the various connectors to the environment so that we can get the proper logs, so we can alert you on the malicious activities that have been happening. And once that's been put in place, we'll provide you with a final report of all the threats we're able to detect, the mitigation techniques, the recommended Microsoft solutions that need to be put in place to mitigate that risk or mitigate those risks. And finally, it's up to you whether you want to continue using that product, or you can just pretty much delete the entire subscription and get rid of it. So depending
Before you
on,
move on, George, just a quick reminder, we have 15 minutes left.
Thank you so much, Betty. So it really depends on what you qualify for, what security workshop you qualify for. You can reach out to us at cloud@proserveit.com. Betty will put a link in the chat window for all these security workshops so you can get a better understanding of which one fits your needs, which one you want to go through, and we can always have further conversations down the line to help you improve your security posture. With that said, some Q&A. Any questions or concerns?
George, you mentioned rapid cyber attack assessment earlier. Can you talk about what that might be?
Sure, definitely. So part of the first phase, which is the assess phase, we have multiple different types of assessments, one of which is the rapid cyber attack assessment. Now, one of the top three, I want to say, attacks would be a ransomware attack. So it could start off with phishing, it could start off with malware, but ransomware attacks is high up there. And if organization is not prepared for ransomware type attacks, then it can halt their business in a few seconds. So the rapid cyber attack assessment is pretty much to help you identify the risks involved with cyber attacks related to rapid cyber attacks, similar to ransomware attacks. So something that can bring an organization down within seconds. We help you identify the risks within your domain, within your environment, on your servers, on your workstations. I'll just give you a quick example here. If all your servers, for example, have the same local admin password, that's ammo for a ransomware attack to spread from one server to the other using that same credential. So we help you identify and capture the risks involved within cyber attacks, within the entire kill chain, and how we can put a halt within every single step, every single process. So once we are able to uncover all those risks, we'll provide you with the recommendations on how to mitigate rapid cyber attack against your organization.
We've got a quiet group here. Maybe you can talk about the desired state in our 4-level model. Do we want to be at the level 3 for everything?
Great question. Let's actually move back to that. So you definitely don't have to be at level 3. Level 3 would be, the ideal situation. We would recommend level 2 to be the baseline for all organizations. And obviously it depends on what the organization have and what they don't have. So level 3 would be the ideal scenario. Level 2 would be the recommended scenario. If you reach your level 2, we feel like you're in a secure state. You don't have to pretty much do much to get to level 3, except for, invest in that advanced level of security. So let's take this for example. You are an organization that deals with sensitive information. You deal with a lot of payment information, a lot of social insurance numbers, for example, some type of personal information within your organization. You can either stop at level 2 with data loss prevention against data leaks. So somebody sending out emails or through SharePoint or OneDrive or Teams sharing sensitive information. Or you can even take that as at a further level and go to level 3 by encrypting the documents, encrypting the emails, encrypting the sensitive information that you have. And it just puts you in a better spot in case there is some sort of cyber attack, they steal that information somehow, at least you know that you are protected by having those documents encrypted.
Thank you,
Any other
George.
questions?
Hi, I do have a question. This is Josie. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So as you've talked about all these potential solutions, are they already currently part of our service model, or are these additives if we wanted to engage ProServe to assist us with these type of assessments?
So these assessments, obviously depending on what we'll be assessing in your environment, they're not within any scoped model. So we'll have to have that conversation to understand what you have, how we can support you. If you're just using Office 365, then Office 365 might be the assessment for you. If you have some public facing servers, we can also recommend penetration tests that regularly happen on a yearly basis. First, we'll have to have that conversation to understand what you have. It's unfortunately not part of any support model today. It's just about this 3-step process in ensuring we assess your environment, we provide the recommendations, we help you protect it, and finally help you monitor it as well.
Okay, some of the things that we've been trying to do is to really dive into the Office 365 realm. But as we dive into it, it is actually gargantuan. There is a lot of information in there. So I'm just wondering, I mean, no disrespect to your group here, but are there any specific subject matter experts that maybe myself and my team can reach out to? We're really good self-starters, and but half the battle is trying to really decipher some of the information that Microsoft is presenting to us, how to click it all together. Is that what your assessments would entail, to assist us with that type of putting it together and understanding the definitions that Microsoft has in place?
Definitely. So coupled with these security assessments, we do offer IT roadmap assessments that can help you transition into the Microsoft realm, into the Microsoft world, regardless of where you are today. If you want to migrate your emails, for example, from Google, or you have an on-premises mail server, maybe some old Lotus Notes server, some GroupWise server, regardless of where you are, we do have these IT roadmap assessments that can help you plan this roadmap. How should you get there? What you need to do? What investments are required from your end in order to get to that final stage of being with Microsoft? And everything that we do, regardless of whether it is a security assessment or not, there will be a security lens tied to it as well. So we're not just going to plan a migration for your plan your way to Microsoft without enforcing or applying a security lens, ensuring that you get there. It's going to be a secure tenant. If it is a brand new tenant, brand new environment, we put everything from the start, which would minimize the end user impact once they get there. Once everything is set up, it's just a matter of end user education, end user awareness of what to expect once you move over to that new platform. So we do offer those services within ProServeIT to help you get into Microsoft, explain everything in layman terms from start to finish on what you need to know throughout your journey from going from point A to point B.
Thank you.
No problem. Great question.
Any other questions? You can feel free to enter them in the chat. I did put a couple of links there for your reference, and I will also include this information in a follow-up email in a couple of days. So you can have a look at our Alarm Guardian package and learn about the Microsoft workshops and see if you're eligible. If there's no more questions, then I want to thank everyone for joining us. You can always reach me. I'm going to put my email here for your reference at bquan@ProServeIT, if I can type, .com. or you can reach our general mailbox, which is cloud@proserveit.com. Okay. And we will stay on the air if you do have a few more questions. Otherwise, feel free to drop from the session and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Okay, thanks very much, George.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.